honor your presence. We're here to discuss the synergies between the local youth and global stocktake and how to align the global policy that we're so involved in nowadays with the local implementation that we know is necessary for any of these discussions that we're having at COP28 to materialize and lead to concrete action. I'm Mara Gilan. I'm part of YOUNGO, the official children and youth constituency, and also the policy team, and have been working on the global youth statement, but more on that will talk my colleague Keith. So without further ado, I would like to first of all present the panel and then hand it over to Younes from ICLEI to give a couple of opening remarks. I want to thank the panelists first and foremost for being here today. We're going to have with us Muskan Lodi from Care About Climate. She's been working on the NDCs trackers and will share more about that with us today. We have Keith Siegfried Ancheta from YOUNGO, from the NDCs working group. Again, very concrete action on youth empowerment and youth involvement in the design and implementation of the NDCs. And last but not least, Karishma Asapota, with whom you might already be familiar through her work in ICLEI, and more specifically on youth empowerment. So a lot of youth-related elements in this first session of our dialogue. And I would like to invite Younes from ICLEI to give us some opening remarks. Yes, please.
So, first of all, congratulations to a fantastic Youth Day, to all YOUNGO and the members. And we are, as ICLEI, those like me who are young at heart are privileged and proud to align our forces today. You have been involved in many sessions. This is a couple of days is really meaningful for me. We just also discussed this in our launch of our local stock takes and how we have collaborated with YOUNGO. Personally, I'm always very, very attached to it because I started this UNFCCC journey as one of the youth delegates. There were no YOUNGOs in '95. But it was again the youth who was pushing the bar higher and higher. And in my last 15 years, I'm working for the local government's constituency and our members. I'm very proud that they are here with you. And this year, really, we made this bridge. It was really not just a coincidence, but it was really a consolidation to our work to the next level. We have observed all the Council climate emergency declarations. That was very clear that it wouldn't have been possible. These councils would not take this if the youth were not on the street. And if they have not reached to their councillors. You will hear so many examples. But what's going beyond declarations of the climate emergency? How to act, how to make sure that really we make a change. And this year's experience on stock takes will really give us the power that we can now, if we are starting a new era here in Dubai, with the Dubai Hope, we are saying that the new era is urban world. An urban world will define the success and failure, and we are confident. The more we can align our forces, we can both fulfill UNFCCC and we can also take it higher, especially towards Brazil, where we are saying that we will bring this as a new normal, that every council has to now bring on their youth decision makers, and then they show this to the UNFCCC. Our next way forward is that we will turn all our town halls to a town hall COPs. And we want you, all your youth, local conference of youth, come and help us. Let's make these decisions not just staying in the boardrooms of the UNFCCC. Let's bring it to the streets. Let's bring it to the life, and we can do it together. I'm excited to listen to all the experiences. I'm particularly very, very happy with our colleagues here in this room, Karishma, Madison, Kale, and all our colleagues who made this possible. Our councillors, our mayors are really, really excited to work with you. And simply, this is the hope that we can bring to this room, and we can take it further. With that, congratulations, and we'll continue to work together. Thank you very much.
With that, thank you very much, first of all, Yunus. Yunus is also someone that we look up to, at least personally. He's the Global Director of Advocacy on ICLEI, so we were trying to steal a few tips and tricks from him whenever he makes an intervention. From now on, you will be in the apt and kind hands of Hayley Campbell. Hayley Campbell is an amazing young climate activist. She does very concrete work with Care About Climate. She managed to gather around her and her mission truly inspiring community of young activists. And yeah, without further delay, Hayley, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you to Mara, one of the also most incredible youth activists that I also know in this space, for really giving us the opportunity and the guidance and setting the stage for this incredible conversation. Today I have the honor of introducing the first of two panels that are going to be happening this evening, focused on the importance of youth, children, gender, and the urban elements to strengthen the second generation of the nationally determined contributions. And before I go any further, does anyone who here knows what nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, are? Who knows? All right, I see some hands not raised, so I'll quickly give an overview and an explanation of what these are. NDCs are countries' commitments to tackling climate change under the Paris Agreement. These are intended to lay out what countries' goals are for tackling climate change, but also inviting, global south, often termed developing countries, to share what support, capacity, and finance they might need to also address the climate crisis. What often they don't always include is focuses on gender, youth, and the urban environment, but they should. And that is why we're all here today, to highlight different ways that this gap is being addressed through a lot of our work here on this panel. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Muskan, who is a Communications and Outreach Director at Care About Climate, and she's going to be highlighting a few findings from Care About Climate's NDC Equity Tracker. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Hayley, for the wonderful introduction. I'm going to keep this closer. Okay. All right, so hello everyone. I'm Muskan from India, and as Hayley mentioned, I'm the Communications Manager at Care About Climate. And we are really excited to share our flagship project today. It's called the NDC Equity Tracker, and I'll be sharing more about it through this presentation. Before we do that, let me share about the organization, Care About Climate. We are a global youth-led organization which trains and empower youth from across the globe to build their capacity to represent themselves at local and international climate diplomacy spaces. We have over 90 volunteers from more than 40 countries, and we are heavily focused on impact climate policy making and implement climate solutions at home and in international spaces. Currently, we have 3 flagship projects. As you can see, NDC Equity Project, International Climate Policy and Advocacy Cause, and Climate Clubs and Community of Practice. All right, so today we'll be talking about one of our more important projects, which is called the NDC Equity Tracker. NDC project is the program that works on the NDC Equity Tracker. This tracker is a very powerful tool wherein we train and empower young people with the right resources to analyze their country's NDCs from gender and intergenerational equity lens. And these NDC youth ambassadors then advocate for gender and youth inclusion in their nationally determined contributions. Until now, we have had more than 95 NDC youth ambassadors who have analyzed more than 45 NDCs, which include European Unions as well. Our analysis accounts for more than 85% emissions in total, and our ambassadors have analyzed more than 72 countries. And on one hand, we have NDC analysis of 8 countries among the top 10 emitters, while 24 countries in our analyses have less than 0.5% emissions. So our impact from 2021 to 23 indicates our presence and progress made by region, and that most of our analyses are currently from the Asian and African region. Okay, so let's jump into the most important aspect of our NDC equity tracker, which are our key findings. So there are three major pillars under which we function: youth, gender, and emissions. So we'll start with youth. When we talk about intergenerational justice, according to our tracker, more than 50% of NDCs exclude young people. Liberia, the Dominican Republic, and Malaysia's NDC highlight youth representation and inclusiveness in climate action, while there has been ambiguity in role of youth by Brazil, Vietnam, and Kenya. However, for countries like Samoa, Japan, and Mongolia, there is a lack of meaningful youth inclusion. Coming to the gender aspect of our findings, although the climate crisis is not gender neutral, gender equality continues to be downplayed in NDCs in general. So globally, 22% of NDCs do not include gender considerations, and whenever they do, the language leaves much to be desired due to weakness, lack of substantial information and implementation, and also the ignorance of LGBTQIA+ communities. So according to our analysis, more than 60% of NDCs don't mention women or gender in a meaningful way. Countries like Dominican Republic and Canada and Kenya not only mention women, but have meaningful action plans that include them in the climate action. Countries like Argentina and Canada are the only ones which make a small reference to LGBTQI+ community. And then, of course, there's absolutely no mention of gender in a considerable amount of NDCs. For example, in both top emitting and low emitting countries like USA and Pakistan. Our last pillar is emissions. So youth from top emitting countries don't believe their country's emissions reduction plans are ambitious enough. All the countries that are analyzed in the tracker mention emission targets, and many demand focus on more robust and comprehensive plans to fund initiatives that aim to reduce emissions by 2030. So top emitting countries like China and the USA do not commit to emission reduction plans, and they are not ambitious enough to limit temperature rise to 1.5°C. And most countries in the tracker, unfortunately, who emit less than 0.5% of global emissions, that create a gap when analyzing emission reduction goals. These are some of the quotes directly taken out from the analyses that our ambassadors have done in the past. And to mention a few of them, from Seychelles, which is a small island developing state, the key recommendation that they had given was to improve communication and accessibility of documents through translation of NDCs, and the circulation of infographics, short videos, and interactive activities that target youth, women, and other marginalized groups. And for Uganda, which is a least developed country, the recommendation was to involve youth in all key processes at both national and local levels to see that the NDCs are implemented, which can be achieved through full youth inclusion and participation in climate policy formulation and implementation. So, we hope to take our NDC program forward next year and adding more countries to our tracker and empower even more youth ambassadors who can contribute to their NDCs in a more meaningful way. This is some of our website links, and you can scan our code and get connected to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Scon. And what I really love about this NDC Equity Tracker, and maybe I'm a little biased, is that it really empowers young people from their countries to not only learn about their NDC and understand what it is and why it's significant, but also empowers them to provide concrete recommendations based on their lived experiences to strengthen and improve their country's NDC. And it's unique because other analyses often just lump percentages together from how many times are young people included, for instance, in a word. And so what's really great about this is it's doing that but empowering young people to really take lead and ownership over how they can advocate for a more inclusive NDC, which is really important under the Global Stocktake this year. So really appreciate hearing about that, and I look forward to seeing next year's additional, hopefully 20 countries added to the tracker. And with that, I will pass it to Keith, Sigfrid, and Cheta, who is a member of YOUNGO and from the Philippines, who will talk about the Global Youth Statement and the local youth statements and everything related to the Youth Stocktake report. Really a lot of different amazing things going on here at YOUNGO, so excited to hear about you. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much, Haley and Leanne. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I am Keith Sigfrid from YOUNGO, and the way that I'm going to talk this evening is a little bit different. I'll try to tell a story and then incorporate the elements of the Global Youth Statement and the local stocktake to this segment. Okay, so let me start by asking you all a question. Are you comfortable with people deciding over every single aspect of your day-to-day lives, wherein you don't have a say in how every minute of your everyday would go? Of course, nobody wants that. However, that's how we, the youth, feel when we're not included in climate policy discussions, such as in the NDC process. These climate targets and how they will be implemented will shape how the future will look like, both the short-term and the long-term future. So in short, it's the lives that we and those who are not yet born will live. The importance of engaging all sectors of society, including children and the youth, is enshrined in the convention that was ratified more than 3 decades ago in the agreement in 2015. Both recognize the value of engaging with all stakeholders, especially since the climate crisis is disproportionately impacted by especially since the climate crisis disproportionately impacts some of these stakeholders more than the others. That's why YOUNGO, or the Children and Youth Constituency of the UNFCCC, came into existence in 2011 after years of build-up since the Rio Summit in 1992. It is one of the 9 constituencies in the UNFCCC. And as a constituency, we have a flat structure and work in consensus. We're also the oldest and largest children and youth constituency in the UN process. So going back, it is bad enough that traditionally marginalized groups such as children and young people, women, persons with disabilities, indigenous people, local communities, and older people, and others are bearing the brunt of the problem that we haven't contributed towards. But this is further exacerbated by the non-inclusion of these groups in designing and implementing climate policy measures that will affect the way they live. Despite this, children and young people, together with other sectors, have proven themselves to be valuable sources of innovative solutions to the climate crisis. The undeniable creativity and passion of young people led to various initiatives tackling different aspects of this problem. Among these initiatives done by young people is creating spaces where we could discuss climate policy measures. Because it is no secret that some offices disregard the voices of young people in decision-making processes, falsely equating our young age with a lack of understanding about these matters. And to make things worse, some offices make it look like they are engaging with the youth and other sectors, but in reality, they just treat us as checked boxes that need to be ticked. They label these processes as something that follows the whole of society approach, but limit the participation of non-government actors. However, even if these decision makers leave no room for young people to meaningfully engage in climate policy discussions, young people will assert our right to have a say in these discussions. Examples of these youth-led policy discussions include the LCOIS, or the Local Conference of the Youth, or the RCOIS, or the Regional Conference of the Youths, which enabled young people from various backgrounds to contribute in crafting a collective statement by the youth and for the youth. This statement took into account the local context, both in terms of climate impacts experienced by young people, their evaluation of climate policy measures implemented by their government, and their proposals to increase ambition and scale up climate action. Initiatives such as this also allow young people to take stock of climate targets set by their respective governments and the extent to which these targets have been implemented, acting as a watchdog to ensure that these government actors are delivering to the promises that they've made. An important tool that have been developed through these youth-led processes is the Global Youth Statement, which incorporates the different local and regional youth statements and other policy inputs. And just to highlight a few of the key demands in that Global Youth Statement, here are some. So first is to provide more opportunities for young people to participate in climate policy making processes through the implementation of the ACE and the allocation of finance for such activities. We also demand to ensure that climate policy submissions such as the NAPs, the NDCs, and others are ambitious and developed in a manner that is inclusive, taking into consideration the experiences of those at the front lines of this crisis. We also demand to close the implementation gap by the provision of appropriate means of implementation, such as finance, capacity development, and technology transfer, ensuring that these means of implementations are responsive to the needs of the most vulnerable populations. We also demand to fulfill the previous finance commitments, such as the post-2020 annual $100 billion commitment of developed countries, and design a post-2025 climate finance framework that are fit for the evolving needs of developing and vulnerable countries. Okay. Next is to further increase the mitigation ambition of all countries, with the largest emitters taking the lead in decarbonization to be in line with the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature goal through just energy transition, emissions avoidance, reduction in other carbon sources, and the protection and conservation of carbon sinks. And lastly is to design and implement climate policy measures that are in line with climate justice, with the meaningful participation of traditionally marginalized groups such as women, children, elderly, LGBTQIA+ individuals, persons with disability, indigenous peoples, local communities, and other sectors, recognizing that they are disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis and therefore should be included in all levels of climate policy action. Young people who are here in Dubai to participate in the COP process are using this Global Youth Statement to lobby with parties to make sure that the principles of intergenerational equity and climate justice are espoused in the positions these parties will take in the negotiating tables. Moreover, we want parties to acknowledge, recognize, and support a youth stocktake by the children and youth constituency in parallel with future GST processes. And to sum everything up, we want decision makers to recognize the value of engaging non-government stakeholders in crafting and implementing climate policy measures such as the NDCs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. It's really amazing to hear about all of the incredible work of YOUNGO. And as a YOUNGO member myself, I'm always inspired by all of the amazing teamwork and efforts and presentations and dialogue that go into all of these statements. So thank you so much for sharing about it and its impact and for working on it as well. And so now I pass to Karishma Sarpoda, an ICLE Youth Engagement Liaison, who's going to talk to us about how to meaningfully engage youth in local government and climate action.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Karishma Sarpoda. I work at ICLE. I work as an officer on climate action, but I also work with youth, and I'm also our youth engagement liaison. But it's also a pleasure for me to be here because I was a part of YOUNGO, and I co-founded the city's working group, so it's always great when I get to work with colleagues again. So we heard about, Yunus did a great opening for us, told us about the local stocktakes. We heard about it from the other speakers. We also heard about the LCOIs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we brought all of this together and get into a few more details. But before we do that, just want to know who knows about ICLE? Who's heard of ICLE and knows who we are? Okay, that's a lot of hands. What about the LGMA? Fewer hands, okay. So maybe we can start there. So just really quickly, ICLE is Local Governments for Sustainability. We're a network of 2,500 plus local and regional governments, and we're active in 125 countries across the globe. But more importantly, in the UNFCCC space, we're also the focal point of the local governments and municipal authorities constituency. And we've been working on multi-level action in the space since 1995. And we are a frequent partner of YOUNGO, which is what I'll focus on today, specifically what we've been working on between the SPs and leading up to COP this year. So I'm not going to take much time because we're going to hear in the next panel a lot more about what we've been doing with the local stocktakes, but I just want to emphasize that from all the local stocktakes that we led and that we facilitated in the last 2 months, 3 were actually led by youth, and this is something we're really proud of. I think it speaks to a lot of what everyone else has also been saying, and I think it's a very concrete way to show that we are working together, and we've collaborated with the local stocktakes and the LCOI, so the Local Conference of the Youth, which has happened in more than 100 countries this year. So I think it's great to see this. So this is a list of 26, and then we have Accra, Kampala, and Nairobi, which were led by youth. And I think we have all 3 of them sitting in the room here. So great, and thanks for being here. Yeah, and there they are. So that's Juliet, and then we have Walter and Richard. Yeah. I also got some pictures, so everyone else can also have a look at how it went. So that's some from Kampala, and then we have a couple of pictures from Accra, and then Nairobi. So leading up to in preparation for these local stocktakes, what we did is we put together a toolkit, to help the facilitators on how they should actually lead it, what kind of questions they need to ask, what templates and other things, and a lot of support on what we can do. And what we included in that toolkit is also this checklist, which is called Unlocking the Power of Youth, which is basically a checklist that local and regional governments can use to evaluate how well they are engaging with young people. And it's for local and regional governments, no matter what level of engagement they are at. So if you're looking for inspiration, or if you're already very advanced, or if you're somewhere in the middle and you're not sure what else you can do to engage youth. So we put this together, and we did this in collaboration with YOUNGO. So it was something that we worked with young people to put together. And how it works, because we don't want it to be another checkbox, like you said, we have, so it tells you what you can do, and it also tells you how you can measure your impact. So it's not something that you're doing just for the sake of doing. So you also have KPIs on how you can be better, and how much, and how you can really measure that you're doing a good job. For any young person, or also for any city who is using this, we welcome any criticism or additions you have to this, because we want it to be a good product and something that everyone can use. So so please write to us if you go through this and you see that something is missing, because we're very open to your feedback as well. Okay, I'll stop over here. I think the next panel you'll really hear a lot more about what this meant and what this looked like on the ground. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Krishma, for sharing about the the amazing work of the Youth Stocktake. It's really inspiring to see people in the audience who are here, who organized it. Sorry, 1 second. The air pollution here is getting me. Right? But in any case, thank you so much for sharing that. I actually work in local government as my day job, and it's nice to see such resources being made available to local governments to be able to really act on meaningful youth engagement. So thank you for putting that together. And I'm so sorry. We have about a couple of minutes for a couple of questions from the audience. And I wanted to know if anybody had any. No questions? Madison. I'll repeat it.
Yes, I have a question for Keith. Thank you so much for your presentation. You introduced so many ways that YOUNGO is collecting youth policy asks and calls to action. And how have you interacted with policymakers and the people with the ability to act on those decisions? And have they been receptive to that information?
And Keith, wait just a minute. Maybe we'll collect the second question, and then we can go to you. Or if there aren't any other questions. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Arifa from Indonesia. I'm a youth with 25 years experience. Well, this is a youth forum, and I've been working with the youth, and yes, I've been in a training. I'm a youth trainer for youth leadership. We've been doing youth leadership camp for climate crisis in climate reality Indonesia. I'm community action manager there. Well, maybe you can share how difficult it is to talk about the NDCs. The thing is, we only have NDCs in national level. In subnational, it's really hard to tell our youth to grab one action you need to do is try to find your NDCs, your city's NDCs, and there is none. So how do you track it if there is none?
Yeah, thank you. And if panelists could, you can decide what question you want to answer, but if you keep your answers short so we have enough time for everyone to give a response, that'd be great.
So to answer Madison's question, in the Philippines, there were regular consultations with the civil society organizations whenever they craft nationally determined contributions, even other climate policy measures such as the NAPs and other things. With how receptive they are, sometimes it's very disappointing because the inputs that we've been raising to hopefully improve on the text are not incorporated. However, we just push through and hope that they will be annoyed by us and incorporate the suggestions that we've been raising through consultations, through bilateral meetings, or through hearings. Yeah.
All right, so from the perspective of NDCs, we currently are focusing on analyzing NDCs of countries itself. So while we're expanding our NDC equity tracker, it is important for us that we focus on including more countries, and unfortunately not cities currently. Maybe in the future, but not right now. And regarding training, I absolutely agree with you. Training NDCs regarding NDCs can be quite difficult, which is why we have a whole round of application for our NDC equity tracker. And once we have selected NDC ambassadors, we give them the proper resources for them to be trained and hence go towards analyzing their own nationally determined contributions. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And before I pass it on to our final little transition, I just wanted to ask Mara if she had anything else that she wanted to reflect on from this session.
Yeah, it was great hearing all of your interventions. Regarding the GYS, maybe a bit in response to your question, we are engaging at all levels. We're engaging at the local levels, at the national levels, with the LCOI statements, but also at the global level. So all of these days, the YOUNGO members have been splitting their times between tracking the negotiations, attending sessions, being on panels like this one and organizing them, but also organizing bilaterals with different types of stakeholders. So we're trying to put pressure at all levels so that action our demands get past that critical point where they actually turn into action. And we found that this is, and maybe the director of global democracy can confirm, Yunus can confirm that it's actually most effective when you tackle the problem from different sides at the same time, so that you create enough pressure. So yeah, I think that's all from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Mara. And it's really amazing to hear all of the incredible stories and projects that are going on, not just to elevate the youth voice, but also to empower more young people to get involved in these processes. It's really critical, from training to action to providing their recommendations and their advice. And that's something that we do a lot at Care About Climate, that we're thankful to have the opportunity to do, and something that we hope all of you will also join us in doing. And so with that, I'm excited to be introducing a video to our tech people, thank you, from the Youth Climate Reality Leaders of Indonesia. It's called Youth Against the Shore, and it's a story of a coastal community in a place in central Java, Indonesia. Unfortunately, I cannot pronounce the name, so if anybody does know how to pronounce this, please let me know. Maybe our
the director is in the room, so I'm sure she knows the correct pronunciation.
Yes. I will bring this, or maybe, I don't know where the microphone is. Maybe you can come to the stage and I will bring you the paper.
You have a mic there, actually. Yeah.
We want to make sure we're doing you all justice here. All right, the city.
All right, so the movie is called The Gayo Against the Shore. It's about a sinking village in Pekalongan, Central Java, Indonesia. And this is the teaser. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And we are excited to roll the clip.
Pekalongan kota batik, warna-warna jinis batik kang sinepto.
Dulu kita ini salah satu desa yang swasembada berasnya cukup bagus.
Ya, kalau untuk kayu ini ya memang daerah yang luar biasa. Saya juga bangga sekali jadi orang Degayu.
Jadi seperti kita ketahui bersama, Pekalongan itu mengalami dampak yang cukup serius akibat perubahan iklim.
Waktu itu memang pohon kelapa banyak, atau mangga, nah terus pisang itu juga banyak, buah-buah yang lain pun sangat banyak. Sekarang sudah hilang olehnya, sudah dibasmi oleh mereka, baru mereka beranjak ke pemukiman.
Pekalongan ini sekarang menjadi epicentrum dari fenomena yang kita namakan sebagai banjirop.
Misalkan 2035 itu benar-benar terjadi, kita ada kenangannya. Degayu itu dulu kayak gini, kayak gini, kayak gini. Nah, itu yang kita inginkan sih sebenarnya.
So good evening, everyone. I am Madison Hodges, and I work for ICLEI Local Government for Sustainability. So if we could have our second round of panelists come and take a seat, please. Great. So as they're coming up, I'll just give a little recap from the city's perspective. That's okay. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Great. So as I said, my name is Madison Hodges, and I work for ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability. I am also a youth, and I did participate in the USA LCOI, so I'm really excited by this collaboration here today. To give a little bit more of a city perspective, we heard about the Gender and Equity Tracker in the first portion, and we at ICLEI and the LGMA are doing a similar exercise, and specifically looking at NDCs. So in the first generation of NDCs, only 23% had strong urban components, meaning that they mentioned the role of local governments in a concrete and meaningful way. I'm happy to say that here at COP28, we're putting in a lot of hard work to increase that number. There's this thing called CHAMP, the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnerships, which has 66 signatories as of today, and hopefully we'll have more as we progress through the week. And so ICLEI is working hard to elevate the role of cities in our second generation NDCs, but with this presents an opportunity to also empower and meaningfully include youth. Youth will make up 60% of urban populations by 2030. And so our communities can only be resilient if youth needs are addressed and supported. And I know that's a sentiment that many of our panelists believe. So earlier in this session, we heard from youth representatives, and now we open the dialogue also to local government. Joining us on the panel today is Richard Mady from the Green Africa Youth Organization and YOUNGO. Richard also was an organizer in the Accra, Ghana Local Stocktake. We have Arif Woboyo, Director of ICLEI Indonesia. Alina Cardoso, the Municipal Secretary for Economic Development and Employment at Sao Paulo, Brazil. Nina Ratalane, member of the Turku City Council. And Marco Gervasi from the European Energy Youth Network. Let's have a round of applause, please. So now I'll hand it over to my colleague Goksin Sahin, Senior Advocacy Expert at our ICLEI Europe Secretariat, to moderate the conversation.
Thank you very much, Madison. And I'm going to kind of ask some quick questions for a quick round of answers, and then we can follow up and open the panel. I know this has been a long day, and this is going to be a long night because we got the Global Stocktake text quite late. So I want to kind of ask rapid questions so that everybody kind of wakes up, and then we are ready to go to the ministerial and then kind of challenge them about the involvement of local governments and the youth in the texts. So I want to start with you, Richard, because Karishma made a kind of great transition to this conversation by showing how you organized the local stocktake in Accra, Ghana. So I would like to hear a bit your experiences about how the youth was involved in the local stocktake and how it felt like taking the lead on this process.
Well, thank you very much. In Ghana, we organized this this local stocktake, taking into cognizance the role of young people when it comes to climate action. And as a youth-led organization, we were very particular and very intentional in ensuring that we have more than 60% of our participants being young people. Obviously for two reasons. One, young people are bearing the impact of climate change today and will bear the brunt tomorrow. So they needed to be at the forefront of this discussion that we will have. And also, they are a key stakeholder who have been neglected over a long period of time, and it was a high time that the opinions and views of young people are taken into consideration. So we were very particular in ensuring that young people made up a majority of our participants. And our stocktake also had a number of state and non-state actors also involved as well to get different perspectives of that. And it was very interesting because one of the key outcomes of our stocktake was the fact that a lot of the program of actions stated in our NDCs were implemented at the national level, and it was more of a top-down approach rather than a bottom-up approach to the implementation of our NDCs in the country. Also, we realized the fact that there was an intergenerational gap. Our NDCs didn't really imbibe or include young people. And so the youth were left out and did not really know what was happening at the national level in terms of implementing the NDC program of actions. And so out of that, we also realized that at the local level, the medium-term development plan, because our local assemblies have the opportunity to develop medium-term development plans, which is used as the development plan at the local level. The medium-term development plan did not actually have any linkage with the NDCs. And so a lot of even though we held the stocktake in collaboration with 2 local assemblies or local government agencies, we realized that it resonated across a lot of the local assemblies within the Accra city. And so their plans didn't have any climate actions apart from that of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly that had a climate action plan due to the partnership they had with the C40 cities. And that led to they having an action plan, but the rest of the assemblies didn't have. And that was actually a huge gap. And out of that, we decided that we'll work with some selected assemblies to have climate action plans developed. So for us, this stocktake activity was very crucial and very, very much important.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a great transition to my question to Arif, because the ICLEI Indonesia also kind of hosted discussions with cities to actually kind of explore different strategic ways, different challenges and opportunities to actually empower cities to help achieving NDCs. So we see kind of this problem about not being bottom up in different situations. So I would like to ask you a little bit kind of what was the situation in the Indonesia, and also a little bit kind of what the Indonesian cities brought to COP for this discussion.
Thank you. Again, NDC is quite new word for local government. They work as business as usual. So how can we provide capacity building to local government as a part of ICLEI function? The main function is how to promote this national commitment to them. So last week we tried to identify what are the problems that they are facing. So it's very basic actually, regarding the literacy of climate change, both mitigation and adaptation, as well as disaster risk reduction. So I think that's a very critical point. But again, the commitment of national government already there, and then we have already submitted NDC as well as enhanced NDC last year. So and now this year Indonesia preparing for second NDC also. So it's very a big gap how to translate national commitment and national technical guidelines into action, mainstream into the planning, capacity to identify the issues, the capacity to provide, to develop baseline like mitigation as well as adaptation, even though we don't have global goal adaptation yet, but we actually already have a kind of national baseline for adaptation as well. Potential impact of climate change in certain sector priority. So these two issues, mitigation and adaptation, is we treat it similarly actually. Again, the gaps is how to implement at local level, and then how to engage all stakeholders. And when I joined ICLEI, I see a very good tool that we can use. You know that we have a CDP ICLEI tracks. It's a kind of what's that, performance evaluation of local government. It's a very good system. How can we try maybe ICLE, we can facilitate to connect with national registry system, because the window for global stocktake is through this national registry system. And we have already tools there. How can we connect it with that? Not only to bridging to the tap mechanism that we already have in ICLE and network there. So how can we connect that potential mechanism in reporting of from the beginning, from the governance issues, engagement of stakeholders, and then scientific development baseline, and then planning, and then how to implement, and then budgeting as well. How engage all sorts of funding, maybe maybe from private sector also. In the challenge is very big there, and monitoring and then reporting. So I plan to connect this CDB ICLE tool that into our national registry system. I think that's a good challenge for us to promote this, including considering the vulnerable groups, youth, children, as well as elderly also, actually, because we already in that national regulation. But again, how to put into practice in these issues, climate change issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to now move to Alina, you're Municipal Secretary for Economic Development and Employment in Sao Paulo. And Sao Paulo has a strong climate action plan, and also you have a very active youth council. And I want to ask you a little bit, how do you use your youth council to implement your climate action plan? And then how also you collaborate with youth to kind of implement or design those policies?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I think you said it well. We have a very strong climate plan, climate bill, and we have the youth very well engaged in public policies, but not necessarily in the same policies. I think first thing we have to ask ourselves is what youth we are talking about, okay? Because there are many different kind of youth, right? So São Paulo, for those who don't know, is a city which has 12 million inhabitants, and I just checked the future, 2.5 million youth. 1 million youth, that's almost half of the youth population, is checked into the poverty system in the list, I don't know how to say that in English, but we have a registration for poor people. So 1 million youth are in this registration list, and half of them, that's 500,000 youth, are in the extreme poverty list. These people, these youth, they're not taking part in this climate action or in any other important policy-making process. Another important figure, 36% of Brazil youth is in this NEET segment, right? Not in education, employment or training. So these people are not concerned about what we are talking here. So this is a challenge. Of course, we have well-educated youth, included youth, those that belong to the middle class or to the rich people. You know, we live in countries that have a lot of inequity, so we have people who have even more information or more possibilities than people in Europe or in the US, but this is a minority. I mean, most part of youth are not connected to these issues because, well, first of all, maybe they're not connected to anything, because if they are not studying, not working, not training, I mean, my God, we have to bring them back. So this is a challenge. I think this is a very important challenge, and it's not only about climate, also about climate, but it's a very important challenge. And there are others who are connected to other things like creative economy, technology, or other things. So I think we as policymakers, I'm being very transparent here, right? So we do have a challenge. And I think this is not only Brazil, this is not only São Paulo. So I'm here open to listen to your suggestions if you found the way to do it. But I don't think it's easy. I think one of the things that we can do, I mean, when you talk about gender, let me just talk a little bit about gender. What we are doing with women is that we are connecting climate and gender issues with poverty reduction, okay? So what we are doing is that we are opening opportunities, job opportunities or training opportunities for women on climate issues, okay? So we are talking about urban agriculture, we are talking about picking the waste, we are talking about food security and food waste. So these are all related to climate, but we have a mean to pay for these women to do it. So whenever we open registration for projects that have income transfer plus training or income transfer plus working, they come. We have thousands of women coming. However, when we open the same opportunities for youth, sometimes they don't come. We have scholarships for training them, and sometimes we open registration. So come, you will get, well, it's not much, but like $200 only for training. I mean, you don't have to do anything. Just come and, you know, train on technical skills or something. They just do not come. We have, you know, a lot of places that are not used for youth. So I think the challenge here is, and another thing, when it comes to the jobs of the future, green jobs, there is a huge potential, as well as technology and other things. But they did not connect yet. So I think we have, like we did with women, we put gender, climate, plus income. We have to put youth, climate, plus something. I don't know if it's training, if it's job, if it's poverty reduction, or I don't know, fun maybe. But I think we need to exchange ideas, and I was very glad to come to this panel, but maybe more to listen than to say. But I think talking about the challenges is important. We are now connecting youth with the Plan Clima, our climate bill. And to do that, we are putting, you know, music, dancing, and other things to catch their attention. We hope it's going to work. We are also calling the social media influencers, you know, to make the people come. But I think one important point is governments, local, nationals, whatever, we are not good at communicating with this new generation. We have an institutional, you know, framework that does not connect to the new generation. And it's a challenge because, you know, changing institutional way of doing things take ages. So we are wasting time. So I think if you guys have better ideas, please share with me.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know, now I want to kind of turn to Nina from Turku, and she is a city councillor in the city of Turku in Finland, and she's coming from YOUNGO, so I learned it yesterday. And I want to ask you, it's a bit kind of I am sure that we don't have a silver bullet for this kind of the social inclusion, and I mean bringing social inclusion, climate, energy policies all together, and then connect the subnational level to national and then to the international processes. So definitely if we had a silver bullet, we wouldn't be here, I think. But I kind of want to ask you a little bit how Turku is dealing with it, because Turku is kind of compared to the Sao Paulo, is a much smaller city, and how are you kind of doing things in Europe, in Turku?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me here. I think it was a very good speech from Sao Paulo, and this is something, I think we should have a side event on this topic next year in COP29 to solve the problem, because unfortunately I also don't have the silver bullet. Indeed, my first COP was in COP in Paris. I was there only to protest outside. That was lovely also, but I'm happy also to be part of the LGMA constituency here today and representing the city of Turku as well as the European Committee of the Regions, which represents over 1 million local leaders throughout Europe. And well, I just want to say, I think it's very important that we start to do NDCs at local level, because municipalities, cities are so close to people, all the people. The higher we have the decision making, the more more far it is from the people, from the youth that is not interested at the first place of climate action. But as local leaders, we are, I think, so much better equipped to invite people along and also plan our activities with the people themselves, so that we are not just ending up establishing a youth platform and inviting youth there and hope that they will arrive and come, but we can go to go to schools and all of youth summits and really ask the young how would they want to be included. I think this is the key. Some good practices from us. Well, in 2020 we had the first youth climate panel, youth climate forum, that we held with our youth council. I think our youth council in the city of Turku is very important because it also touches upon all the things that we are having in the policy making. Youth councils are written in law in Finland, so it's obligatory for its municipalities to have one. I think it's very good that it's obligatory, and also we have representation from the youth council in each commissions and city council, so the youth have access to all places in decision making, which I think is quite crucial because we can hold climate forums, climate panels, etc. But because climate is an issue of every political area, so we need to have people to have their say in all commissions, whether be it not just in construction and transportation planning, but also when we plan for healthcare activities, culture, whatever, sports, because climate is everywhere and should be. So also because I think sometimes the key is that we just need to enable the place for the youth to come, be involved and have their say and have their focus in decision making, not just invite the youth to have a comment on specific topics, because we as adults cannot make the choice for the youth of what they want to have the say in. So important to have youth everywhere. But I think representation is quite important, inclusivity. So having a youth council is not, of course, enough because it's only a small proportion of the young people. That's why we do have climate forums for young people, and we had the local stocktake that invited also the youth organizations to be involved, and we offer young people our city website to be a platform to write their thoughts and so on. And I do hope that future good practices also include even larger town hall cups in our city, in our region, and also have the young involved more in our next versions of our climate plan. I think that one important policy that we have written in our climate plan of the city is that the young and children they have the right to be informed, and they have the right to get information on what the city is doing and how we are performing in climate policies. Because, well, first of all, I think that the word rights is quite important to be included in city strategies. And secondly, it is quite difficult to influence on anything if you don't have the access to the information. So I think it's for us also to provide with the information that is easy accessible for all kinds of people with different languages, with different age. So I think it's also our responsibility to offer climate information for young children also, so they can have their say. Lastly, maybe good practice from the European Committee of the Regions. We have a young elected politicians program that involves young local leaders from city councils and regional councils throughout EU, and also nowadays from the candidate enlargement countries. And with this, I want to highlight that it's quite important, I think, not to just hear the young out, but to have the young involved in decision making as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are hearing very interesting kind of best practices, but also questions about, I mean, how do we bring different aspects of the kind of this climate crisis together that includes changing tomorrow's jobs, changing the kind of maybe the academic curriculum, and then kind of informing youth about what the cities are doing, but also informing them about what their future might look like in a changing climate. So I want to kind of turn to Marco, and because we discussed also about the social components about climate action. How do you bring the youth in this conversation and make them understand that they might be kind of having a different future through upskilling, reskilling, and so on. So you're kind of working on the energy transition and also with youth. So I want to ask you a little bit, kind of what do you see as the big challenges and opportunities in upskilling and reskilling of the youth?
Yeah, sure. So first thing first, thanks for inviting me and for inviting youth representative of this round table, because I mean, I'm very glad that there are a lot of initiatives in youth inclusions, but it's also important to bring youth voices when it comes to this kind of round table. So Nina, we were in the same round table this morning as well, but just to give you a brief overview, I'm Marco Gervasi. I'm currently representing the European Youth Energy Network, which is essentially a network of young professionals in the energy transition. We represent around 2,000 young people that works in the energy transition among 8 different countries in Europe. And our biggest aim, of course, is to be much more representative in the specific sector for youth. How do we empower youth? We basically do that by giving a voice to youth at the European level in terms of energy transition, but we also develop projects because to help youth in being part as civil society of the transition towards a green economy, towards a possible future, I would say. It's not sustainable anymore, the right word, but it's possible, because without a proper transition, we're not going to have any future, right? So basically, coming specifically to youth and the energy transition, we see that there are thousands of programs from the educational point of view, but also thousands of opportunities for finding their job, like job portals, right? But what is missing in this value chain is how to guide youth in understanding their role in the energy transition. And here comes to the answer to how to upskill. Like before thinking about how to upskill youth, we need to understand which is the role of youth in the green jobs in a broader sense, in the sustainable jobs in the broader sense. So I think the best way to answer to this question is, let's first assess what the skills the youth have, because most of us are the most educated in the sustainability, in the energy transition, also in a holistic way, because curricula are much more adequate nowadays, and it's a common sense that doesn't exist anymore a profession that's has some borders, you know? Before there were engineers, there were economists, there was people who graduated in law, but right now we see that with the green jobs there is I don't know, a mixture of competences. So it's not going to be a law degree that guarantee that you are able to join, for instance, negotiation, because you need to have a strong background also in climate-related topics, also from the technical point of view. But coming to our solution, so as I say, we understand also by dialoguing with our members that most of the youth struggle in finding their role. Like they for sure have the knowledge, but sometimes they don't know where they position themselves. So for instance, to solve this problem, we actually launched a few days ago a tool called the Energy Transition Careers Compass, which is a digital tool, and here comes to your point, that when you need to talk to youth, you need to provide something the youth is used to. So, there are a lot of international organizations that to help youth in finding their role in this green jobs area, they propose reports. Reports are, I don't want to say they are just boring, they are just very educative, right? But if you want to speak with young people, our level of focus is very low. So you need to give us something that's gamified, something that's short. So for this reason we say, okay, there is something on the table right now, but there is something that doesn't speak to youth. So we build this platform. They actually map from the green jobs level, 100 green jobs divided in 3 different categories. Build environment, natural environment, and green services. And here COP, we launched the energy transition side of this platform, which itself mapped 150 jobs with relative skills and job description. But how we did that? We didn't take reports for doing that. We actually ran a survey, so we interview young people that works in the energy transition, and we ask them, what's your job title? What's your daily task? What's your unique skills? because it's what young people need to understand their role. After that, I think we can bridge this to whatever job portal or influentiate curricula as well. But like our biggest goal is that when young people can navigate in such a platform, they will be fulfilled to understanding their role. They could understand if they have the right skills, and then may eventually join the job that suits the most their skills, their competences, and their, you know, all of us are seeking for impactful jobs. So everyone will have not just a green job in the energy transition, but an impactful job in the energy transition.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I think my panelists started to answer each other's questions, so this can continue. But before we continue with the second round of questions, I want to turn to the room and ask if we have any questions or comments. Yes. Can we just wait for 1 second for the mic to arrive? We have one. Thank you. Over there.
My name is Adam. I'm with Richard's team from Ghana, and I want to attempt to suggest something for your issue of youth interest in activities, where you even open up programs, free programs for them to come and learn, and they don't want to take it up. What I would suggest is that, like you said, come to their level sometimes. If it is in football their interests lie, you send a message to them through football. If it is in entertainment, if it is in music, you need to identify the unique activity the youth within that catchment area, they resonate with. So if you come to Ghana, a lot of young people resonate with entertainment. And so if you pass your message through that channel, you are likely to get them, because they would come there expecting entertainment, then you slot your activity in there somehow. So to me, that's a little trick I want you to try. If it doesn't work, then we can think of something else. But I'm very certain it's going to work out.
Give me your phone number then.
Yeah, I will share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have a question from here.
I have a couple points, but first of all, to Anna and to this discussion. Next year is very important, and the year after for Brazil. Next year, Brazil is the G20 presidency, and the year after it is the COP. And in June, actually, Anna, we are directly... Alini, sorry. We're directly coming to your city because ICLE World Congress is coming. And this work that we have done with youth was in fact was a legacy of our World Congress in Malmö 3 years ago. My proposal, let's while designing the ICLE's World Congress, let's really put this on the table as an agenda, how we can change the course of engagement, maybe real case studies. That would be my lessons learned from this session. So let's not leave this here, but let's work on it and let's go for it. I mean, Turku Mayer is our vice president, so she can take it forward so that she can bring additional elements. Maybe we can have other youth stocktake delegations to Sao Paulo and discuss on a more concrete things. The second point, I see here my colleague Peter. The connection is that he's leading a fantastic campaign on school food project. And of course, the youth is the best in the schools. So bringing a benefit and then making them be part of the solution on the logic of, let's not bring youth just to bring the sake of youth. Let's use youth to reach to the rest of the society. Let's give them a role to play, saying that the YOUNGO was using this youth washing. Not, as you said, just to prepare a report, but youth making a change in their homes, in their workforces, in their neighborhoods. And then maybe they can feel honored, and reaching out to the simple tools like school foods and others, we could reach more youth maybe. So let's try to connect our efforts so that we can make it much better.
Yeah, thank you, Nus. There is, I think, one more question, comment from here. Yes.
I've been working with youth since 2012, 2011, and I have youth my children, 4 of them. From my experience, we don't tell the youth, we don't talk to the youth, we listen, let them talk to us. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will turn to the panelists for answering
Yeah,
the...
just
thank you.
a couple of points that I would like to make myself more clear. I did not say youth don't care. I just said which youth, because I think we have a division. We have inequality in this field like we have in other fields. We have a lot of engaged youth, like my kids or their friends at school, or some people who have access to information, or some people who, they are even more concerned than us. Some of them grew worrying about the planet. We did not. I mean, we started worrying about the planet too late. So I think the point here, what I try to mean is that a part of the youth absolutely don't care about this. But maybe they also don't care about a couple of other things. They're not studying, they're not working, they're not training, they're not doing anything. I mean, so my point is, I brought some figures. 36% of Brazilian youth are not working, not training, not in school. So I'm talking about these people, but it happens that they are a lot. So I'm more concerned about them than about the others, okay? So the others are, they are better than us. The old guys here. I'm the old girl here. So second thing, I appreciate your advice, and I think you're absolutely right. And what I mentioned is that we are doing things like that. So we will have next week a hip hop festival about climate. So we are doing the homework. We hope it engages them. So there are, you see here, 15 attractions, and it's about dancing, it's about music, it's about fun, and it's about climate. So we are bringing them. The point is, if they don't have perspective on their lives, and unfortunately, I'm being transparent here, a part of our youth just, so it's not only about climate, it's about bringing them back to, to their wishes. So I think maybe I was misunderstood. I'm talking about a part of the youth, okay? And I do think we can learn from you, but I think we also have a lot to teach. Because we are doing well in a lot of things, like, for example, talking about urban agriculture. And this is very much concerning young people, because they are thinking about eating more healthy food. So our urban agriculture program, which is huge and won a lot of awards, is also about bringing young people to cultivate green spaces in the city. And this is going very, very well. Recycling. Youth are recycling more than us. So I think there are many things we can learn from them, and many things we, São Paulo, can share with you guys. But I just decided to bring the attention and be more concerned about those who are completely off the story. Okay?
Thank you. I think that's a very good reflection with the kind of the inflation crisis, with the different kind of economic pressures. We see more and more kind of the rate of being jobless among the youth is increasing. So we need to also think who is our target group, how do we make inclusive policies. So I want to go to Arif for the kind of the final remarks, and I will give the floor to Madison to kind of close the event. Sorry, after everyone's closing remarks.
I think we have already modalities, but again, it's scattered. We don't understand how the passion of youth. We should use that as an entry point when we would like to introduce NDC and other related program with very high level language. How to translate into that level. I think we have many examples, very good. So we have to change that youth is not an object. It should be a subject, key player. Because we have the owner of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will kind of follow the kind of order of sitting. Maybe kind of Marco, if you would like to add something?
Yeah, very briefly. I love the fact that you bring the fact that youth, do not generalize youth. And it's not just a problem of like economic access and wealth, because you bring another point, that there are some youth, they don't care about climate change, but they don't care about a number of other things. So I think that was, the most unique thing I ever heard in COP, probably can I say. And I think it's more, no, I'm not joking, because we also generalize youth, but we shouldn't generalize youth.
Yeah.
We are different, it's kind of, there are different target groups, there are different interests, and we probably speak all the common language, so it's like more something digital, something fast, but we should reach all youth in a proper way, and to engage both who has lost in the hope in the future, who doesn't care about climate change and maybe can change the idea, hopefully, and also who does not have access to wealth. So thank you for bringing this topic, and in general, I hope you appreciate the fact that we, as youth, also bring a peer-to-peer tool for bringing them to the energy transition in this case.
Yeah, quickly, I want to say that it's important for us to repackage the climate change conversation to resonate with what young people are doing. How do we make the climate action talks very attractive or to young people to encourage their involvement, so that they can be a part of it and not only considering them just as a stakeholder to seek their views, but repackage the conversation. Because the climate change conversation has become too technical and young people don't want to be part of it, but really they are it's part of their everyday experience. So how do we repackage the conversation that makes it very attractive? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nina, please.
I'm thinking of two things that came up in our local stocktake discussion a month ago. We were talking about how to reach our carbon neutrality goal, which is 2029, and I'm pretty sure we are going to reach it, so that's not the problem. But that's something that the youth proposed, and what was agreed on there was a lot of discussion of them not liking the polarizing discussion that is taking place so often. And another thematic area was how to tackle climate anxiety. And we have established a project of communications in social media about climate anxiety. It's about communication and participation. And these were the topics that the youth picked themselves. And also they could have picked other things, and whatever the youth would have chosen, I think as a decision maker, I would need to accept. I'm coming to a point of also sometimes thinking that it requires from us as a decision makers to give up power a little bit, because not all the youth are same, and we can't expect the youth to have a singular opinion, or we can't expect to know what the opinion is. We just have to watch and see. And politics is about power. So that's the time we have to think to ourselves how to also gain and keep the trust of the young youth for the politics. And it requires us to really, really implement the decisions that the proposals that the youth give us. So that is my one notion. And finally, my personal experience is that girls who have dads change the world. I know so many teenage girls in my city who have changed their dads that are making decisions, and so they have become more environmental friendly. So I absolutely think that the youth are the present leaders already.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I mean, I wanted to kind of ask a final round of applause, but maybe we will do that after Madison, who kind of kindly opened our discussion, and now she will kindly kind of close and wrap up the conversation for us.
Thank you, Goksen. And that was a wonderful transition because we've heard about how the local stocktakes inspire dialogue within your communities. And Nina, I apologize for not giving Turku a proper shout out earlier in the session, but Turku did host a local stocktake that was not youth fully organized, but very youth involved. And it sounds like it was a very robust discussion. And so at the LGMA, we have a few key advocacy points and a vision for local stocktakes moving forward. We the Global Stocktake, of course, happens every 5 years, and these are local, subnational inputs to the Global Stocktake process. But we want these events to occur every year in town hall COPs. And why? Local stocktakes can accelerate community engagement and the implementation of climate action plans. They can assist communities in aligning with their national plans and their nationally determined contributions. As Richard mentioned, they noticed a disconnect between the local and national level. We are always advocating at the LGMA for multi-level dialogue and multi-level consultation. This year we're looking specifically at the second generation NDCs with, again, the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnership, or CHAMP. But how do we do CHAMP? How do we do multi-level dialogue? And we do them through things like the Town Hall COP. And lastly, we are calling on the UNFCCC to incorporate local stocktake outcomes, what came of these discussions, and recognize them in the global stocktake outputs, which we are negotiating right now. The global stocktake facilitators asked for local inputs at SB 56, and now, we would really love to see that loose end tied up and engaged at the end. So that is our advocacy message for the local stocktakes, not only to elevate the role of cities, align them with their countries, but also as a means to elevate the voices of youth. So I'd just like to end this discussion with just one final sentiment. Today is Youth Day at COP, but it is our responsibility to meaningfully incorporate youth voices, finance youth projects, and provide decision-making power to youth every day and in everything that we do. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you to ICLEI, to YOUNGO, Care About Climate, and Davey, who I know is watching online. Thank you so much for all your effort in this session. Let's give everyone a round of applause. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for the moderation. Family photo.
I'm sorry if I made a mess in your panel.